to order. We have one member appearing on WebEx this evening, so we'll do roll call vote for our actions so that we have everybody recorded. The first item on our agenda for tonight is the minutes of our previous meeting from 2/21 of 22, copies of which are in the packets. Does anyone need any corrections or revisions done for the minutes?
Look good, move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve from Peckham. Is there a second? Second by Herbst. Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the minutes. McElhaney? Peckham?
Aye.
Herbst? And I'll vote aye as well, and the minutes are approved. Item number 2 is to consider approval or denial of various license applications. We have one recommended for denial this evening, and by our ordinance, those individuals can approach the committee to discuss the situation. The operator recommended for denial is Jason Brown. Do we have Jason Brown with us this evening?
He might be out walking.
Okay. I'll give him just a second. Are you Jason Brown? Okay, you're just in time. We just got to your item. The license is recommended for denial, as I was saying, and under our ordinance, any license applicant that is recommended for denial is allowed to address the committee and discuss any elements of the record that may be factually inaccurate. So do you have comments that you want to give to the committee, Mr. Brown? You can come up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record then, and then go ahead and make your comments.
Jason Brown, 3725 Western Pines Lane, apartment 202.
Okay, and now are there elements on the record that are inaccurate or?
No, but at the same time, I wanted those for my job at the Holiday gas station due to my boss recommending everybody that works full-time obtain their liquor license to close at 10 o'clock and be able to serve alcoholic beverages. And I understand that my background played a part in it, but it was like 2014 and this is 2022 and that's done and over with. So I was just trying to figure out how did that play a part in me not obtaining my liquor license for a job that I really love and want to stay at full time, because my boss told me today if I don't, then I have to drop down to part time, and that's not enough money because I have a lot of bills and things I need to take care of. So
I think the struggle we have is that there's no difference between a retail license for you to be able to work in a convenience store and a bartender license to tend bar with. And so when you have that server license, you essentially could use it in either realm. If there was a retail-only type classification, we wouldn't have a lot of these struggles. But, I think the totality of the record, given the fact that the license would have multiple uses, the totality of the record is concerning. Do you have comments, Deputy Chief Barnes, on this denial recommendation at all?
Chief Bliven is the one that issued a recommendation for denial in this particular case, but as I look at the rationale behind it, we're not arbitrary when we look at the reasons for denial, and when we look at Mr. Brown's history, it's very consistent with the denials we've given. There are significant concerns based on that history with giving this privilege.
I agree. I think that, one of the things that we have to look at with the totality of the record is, the severity of the violations, and knowing that when you hold that license, you then have the ability to be in control of the premises yourself. And so, I think that's where we struggle a little bit, just because there's some serious stuff on there. Committee members, any comment on the record at all?
Is our ability for liquor license, that is a totality of everything a liquor license can do, is that state or is that an ordinance? A local ordinance that,
The server, you mean?
yes.
What do you mean the
Well,
totality
I
of
mean,
what they
is
can
it,
do?
you know, this has come up numerous times.
The fact that there's no distinction between
Distinction
retail and bar.
between having somebody work at a gas station, which is 99% of what we get for a retail server or a grocery store, compared to being a bartender.
Well, it's what we
Yeah.
have appeals on most of the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
But there's an awful lot that are serving in establishments too.
Right, the server license applies, and it's a state law. It
State.
applies for both bars and retail outlets like the Holiday.
Okay. With that, absent a request from the committee to entertain Mr. Brown's license separately from the pack, I would accept a motion to accept or deny licenses as recommended by staff.
I would make that motion
Okay,
as
we-
recommended by staff.
Okay, we have a motion from Peckham. Is there a second? Second by Herbst. Further discussion or questions? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the pack. Herbst? Peckham?
Aye.
McElhaney? And I'll vote aye. That item then will pass 4-1. Or 3-1, sorry. That means that the license, as of today, is still denied. You do have, though, the right to appeal to the full common council when the license appears on their agenda, which is likely the first Tuesday of April, or second Tuesday of April. April 12th? April 12th. Okay. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Item number 3 is consider premises amendment for permanent outdoor beer garden at the Glass Hat at 1203 North 3rd Street. Petitioner is REMBS LLC, Gisela Marks. And so you'll see in the packets, you've got some renderings and some photos of what her outdoor service area would look like. And welcome.
Hi.
And so you had some outdoor last summer, right? How did that,
Well, we didn't have a door inside, so it was a
Okay.
little more difficult, but yeah, I mean, it was
It went well,
received.
though?
Yeah, it was better than nothing, yeah.
Sure, sure. Okay, and so this request would make that outdoor area permanent. And you'll see some renderings that she's got there as far as the seating and the entry and access points. Does anyone have questions for Ms. Marks on the outdoor premise?
I would just comment that the only thing that appears to be missing is a bucking bronco.
I'm trying to find one. Then there'd be insurance issues.
Oh, geez. So, any comments on the permanent outdoor space over at Glass Hat? Any concerns from police or fire?
I think the only concern, which is true in any of our establishments that have outdoor seating, is to be respectful of the neighbors. Historically, the only times we have issues is if the neighborhood feels that their peace is being disturbed. But otherwise, I don't think we have any issue. We can address those
Okay.
as they come up.
And when we first considered outdoor seating over there last summer, you did have some support from your neighbors, correct?
Yeah,
With-
all of our neighbors
so you're-
wrote a letter that somewhere should be on file.
Okay,
And the house that's next to us isn't occupied. I mean, they've even let us put our hooks for our lights into their building. And we plug into their building, so I pay the utilities for that building. And, you know, we built that extra privacy fence and privacy door. And the ornamental grass that's gonna get supposedly 7 feet high if we water it. So we're really careful about our neighbors. I mean, we like our neighbors. Our other neighbor used to work for me, so I think all staff is very cognizant of the noise outside and people outside. Our speaker that goes outside is controlled inside by a separate button, so whatever music is in the bar can be turned down outside, so it's not the same volume blasting.
sure. And there isn't live music out there, is there?
No, but I would sure like to. Is that another meeting? I mean, I wouldn't put like big bands or really rotten DJs or anything. I'm talking like solo acoustic, early evening kind of stuff.
It's a tavern entertainment license. It's,
for inside only, though.
okay. So when we did some of the outside, did we have to approve them? Because I know we did some outdoor parties, like single event type stuff. We did them at Cabaret had them, B&R had them. I don't know who else had. Hiawatha had it. Hiawatha had an acoustic guitar thing that was like every week or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was approved by.
It was a case-by-case thing though, right? So you
Right.
present a plan. It's a separate meeting, but it's present a plan for the dates with a description of what you want to do. And then we would consider that here, like a special event type thing.
Yeah, the only issue with that is, like sometimes you get someone 2 weeks in advance, which is not enough time to come in the following month.
Well, and it doesn't necessarily have to detail who the act is. I think that if you knew that you wanted to host something like that, like every Wednesday or every Thursday or whatever, during the season,
So it could be general without,
yes.
like
So
once
if,
a month, we would like to.
yes, so if you knew how often you wanted to do it and between which hours, like if you wanted to do it between 7 and 11 or whatever, so we can
Okay.
kind of get an idea, then, I guess who the entertainer is, really matters less as long as they observe the right time frame and, that they're not disruptive to the neighborhood, so.
No, we would always have staff out there, which is why having the door, and we had all the cameras inside redone. We saved one so we could put it outdoor,
Okay,
which is available on my phone.
okay. Well, for now, what we have is the outdoor, permanent outdoor garden. So why don't we take a motion on that? And then for the outdoor entertainment, if you can put together a little plan
Sure.
for kind of when you want to do it and during what hours.
Okay.
So we can get a feel for that. We could certainly take that up at a future meeting, whenever you're
Can it
ready.
be something like, in the future, we hope to have entertainment during these hours twice a month?
I think we,
Or do you need it more
I
specific?
don't know, yeah, I think we need to be a little more specific than that. So, just so we kind of know roughly what days and what hours. We'd have most stuff that we allow downtown that's outdoor music, we ask that it stop by 10.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think one in the 400 block, we went till 10:30, but they have to stop pretty early, because people are sleeping, so.
No, I have no
But-
problem with that, because I'd like to go home and not worry about it.
Right? But yeah, I think with a little bit of specificity, at least as far as how many days and what hours.
Okay.
That would help us.
All right.
So, so with that, do we have a motion to approve the permanent outdoor garden at the Glass Hat? We have a motion by Herbst. Is there a second?
I'd second.
We have a second by Peckham. Further discussion or questions? We'll go ahead and vote on that. Peckham?
Aye.
Herbst? McElhaney? I'll vote aye as well, and so that item is approved.
Great,
All right, thank you for coming in.
thank you.
Item number 4 is discussion and possible action on creating temporary ordinance, Chapter 5.90, relaxing certain code requirements during COVID-19 pandemic and recovery for a period expiring on 10/31 of '22 at 11:59 PM to provide for COVID-19 temporary outdoor seating areas for restaurants, bars, taverns, authorize city staff review and approval for temporary outdoor seating areas and temporary expansion of licensed premises, temporarily amending section 9.04.025, consumption or possession of intoxicants on streets, and temporarily amending special events policies and procedures. You'll recall last season, we created a bunch of enabling legislation to allow for things like dining in the street and to expand premises for outdoor seating and sidewalk cafe type areas for our restaurant owners and for special events like dining on the street. Obviously, the pandemic is waning, but it's not gone. And so Main Street and Wausau events are both, I know, interested in having those events again this season. And so rather than make that enabling legislation permanent, though, it seemed that it would be prudent for us to reactivate the same temporary privileges we had last summer for them that run through the end of October, so we could get at least one more season of data to know how this is working and if it's been a problem, both within the central business district and with our operators. So this particular legislation would open things up this summer again through the end of the season and allow for that outdoor activity without making that a permanent license amendment for all of them. Does anyone have comments on that at all? It really is basically the same stuff we had last year with new dates on it, which would allow them the same privileges.
It looks to me like Assistant City Attorney Alfonso has thought of everything that needs to be thought of, and I would move to approve this new condition with the time limit specified. I think it's a good idea.
Okay, we have a motion from Peckham. Is there a second? Second by McElhaney. Further discussion or questions? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote on that item. Herbst? McElhaney? Peckham?
Aye.
I'll vote aye as well, and so that item is approved. And so at the end of the event season, as a committee, we'll take stock of how it went, again, just like we did last fall. And, then maybe look at if we can conduct these type of activities without a whole lot of difficulty. There's likely some interest within the business districts to maybe have some of these provisions be permanent. But I think that's definitely a future discussion once we know a little more. Let's see here. Item number 5 is discussion and possible action on amending section 16.04.037 rent abatement. And let's see. Switch to the packet. And so there was a scrivener's error in the rent impairing violations contained within the rent abatement ordinance that we discovered at our last rent abatement hearing. And it appears that this item corrects that. And so this is kind of a housekeeping type item, but it does bring some clarity so that when we have rent abatement hearings and requests that we'll have some clarity with the abatable percentages and the violations. Anything else on that, Tara? Nope. Sometimes we find these things when we go to actually put them into practice, and that's how this one came to light, is that there was some things that could have been clearer. So, does anyone have questions for Tara on that?
I'd like to know what a scrivener is.
Did you not ever read the story Bartleby the Scrivener?
I guess not.
Well, you should read it, Pat.
It's a
In
British
any case,
literature classic.
It's just a typo. It's a fancy sort of legally understood word that it's not a real substantive error. It's just a transposition of numbers or a simple mistake that can be corrected without a big deal.
Very good.
Okay. Do we have a motion then to approve the amendment to the rent abatement section? Motion by Herbst, is there a second? Second by McElhaney.
Go for it.
Further discussion? None, we'll go ahead and vote. Herbst? Peckham?
Aye.
McElhaney? I'll vote aye as well, and that item passes. Item number 6 is the operations report from the fire department for February of 2022, copies of which are in the packets. Any questions on the report at all?
The only thing I had was it's reference to the 2%, like state 2% dues. I'm not familiar with those. Is that like with property insurance or something like that, fire insurance?
Yeah, it's a little bit more complicated it is a determination on 2% dues that come back to us, determining, like we're an ISO 2 city. So that determines the amount that comes back as well as how many buildings we inspect, and fire investigations and those types of things that our inspection bureau is in charge of. So every year we put in and received a 2% dues back from the state based on a lot of different criteria, but that's one of the bigger ones, yes.
Does the money come from insurance policy payments, or is it some other source, or do you know?
Mostly from insurance, and then there's also from the state inspector's office and what they collect as far as funds throughout the state coming from, I forget what they call it now, but through their fire inspector bureau and what they collect. That slips my mind on what they call it, but part of it comes from there and a lot of it comes through insurance companies, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Any additional topics on the fire report that you'd like to talk about? Okay, anything notable on the report that you'd like to talk about, Jeremy?
I guess, with the EMS, I think, we're on average as far as how many calls we have. February was an above average for us on the fire side. You can see we had quite a few fire calls in February, as well as the big accident on the highway, or both of them. So I think that's worth note, how busy February was on the fire and rescue side. So other than that, I think everything else is in the report.
And that was some pretty intense stuff.
Right.
Okay, if there's no questions on the report, we'll go ahead and place the fire report on file. And then that brings us to item 7, which is tavern activities report for the month of February. Anybody have questions at all on anything that you see on the tavern report? Okay, we're good on that. Anything on the report that you wanted to talk about, Matt?
No, I don't think we assigned any demerit points, and it's a pretty normal.
That's a good month then.
Anticlimactic tavern month.
That's a good month then. Okay, and so without any additional questions or comment then on the tavern report, we'll place it on file as well. Item number 8 is communications. Does anyone have any communications? Mary, go ahead.
Yeah, I do. This is something that'll probably be coming to the next meeting that I just want you all to think about. We got an email from Mark Craig. There is a business going into Washington Square called Modern Gents. Hair place. Hair salon. He had called me a month or so ago, interested in getting a liquor license for the hair place, and I told him that that's not legal in the state. You can't have a liquor license with another business. He wanted to serve beer to the guys when they got their hair cut, whatever. So he looked into it further. I directed him to Rick Hewlig, who is our enforcement agent for this area. And so what he's intending to do is to apply for a Class A beer and liquor license, which is what your grocery stores and your gas stations have. They're not for serving on premise. They're for buying and taking away. However, Class A licenses can have something called sampling, which is done between 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., and it's only 2-3 ounce samples if it's beer and like 1 ounce if it's alcohol. And really what it's meant for is, obviously like in a liquor store, maybe you don't want to buy that big bottle of booze unless you have a little taste of it. So it makes sense for those types of businesses. But this is kind of a way to get around the law by getting that license for this type of business, and then say you're just giving your customers a sample. Whether they really only give them the 3 ounce, that remains to be seen. So that, he could get that license. You are able to issue him that license. All I'm saying is that I think you may be setting a precedent, because if one studio does that, I think all your salons, studios, nail places are going to want to come and do that to stay in competition, and then you're going to have alcohol served in all these businesses all over.
It's a
So-
slippery slope.
So that's something to think about. And Mark Craig, who is the owner of the building, said that he, as landlord, is opposed to having a liquor license on that premise. He did say, the individual did email me today and wanted that license to come tonight. He wanted to bring it in,
Okay.
come tonight. I said, no, I'm not springing this on the committee at the last minute. So it would probably come in April, but Mark said he really hasn't had a chance to talk this over again with this tenant,
Okay.
expressing how much they don't want this on their premise. So maybe it won't come, but this could be coming, just so
Didn't
you
he
know.
mention that it would violate the terms of the lease?
Yeah,
if
he
it
said
was
he
so-
hasn't really had a chance to talk it over with him again, so I told him that this, if this application's coming, it wouldn't come till April, and maybe he will not bring it forward, but I just think that this is something that, if one does it,
No,
they're all going to do it.
Well, and it, like you said, it is really a workaround on a technicality, so that's something we have to think about. But if that license does come forward, I would suggest that we invite the landlord to the meeting as well.
Correct.
So notify him that it's happening in case he wants to offer feedback. So, okay, so we'll watch for that. Any other communications?
I would have one.
Go ahead. You might have beat me to it. I had one for you.
Okay. Well, unless Mary or somebody invents a reason for special meeting between now and our next regularly scheduled meeting, this will be my last meeting of Public Health and Safety. I felt before I was elected to the City Council, this was a very good committee that I wanted to serve on. I've been very pleased to be part of it for 6 years. I appreciate all the members, all the thought they put into it, all the work, etc. been a pleasure and very satisfying part of my council experience. So thank you, and pretty soon, so long.
And that was the one communication that I had as well, was to thank you for your service to the committee and for the insight that you've brought to it. I know in your prior career in the media, you were always here with us through an awful lot of things and a lot of substantive changes that we made over the years, and it was great to work with you on the committee in a different capacity as well. So definitely thank you for bringing that insight and that perspective to us every month. We appreciate that, and we will certainly miss you.
Thank you.
Matt?
One quick communication popped into my head when you mentioned Washington Square. The police department has been having meetings with Mark Craig and his staff, specifically addressing some of the issues in the downtown area related to homelessness and some loitering type behaviors. So Mr. Craig is desiring an additional CSO presence down there, believes that that will positively impact, and we're working with him right now as he's offered to help fund that so that additional staff can be down there through the summer, and we can see if that assists not just in Washington Square, but that whole area, including our ramps, can positively impact the business environment down there. So kind of a heads up and a stay tuned, and we'll see what we can come up with.
Well, it's good that they're willing to partner as well on some of the costs, because I think that will help us solve some of those problems too, if they're willing to be part of that matrix. So, okay, absent any other communications, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Motion by Herbst, is there a second? Second by McElhaney. Members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No one ever is. We'll stand adjourned.
I
We'll,
almost voted no, so you can't say that anymore, but that's how we got.
I do say it all the time, because there's never much opposition to going home,
Yeah.
so. All right, and we will see everybody tomorrow for council. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Pat, are you planning on joining via WebEx tomorrow night?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good.